You've been misled. Not with cruel intent, not with venom, but for years, perhaps decades, you've been chasing ghosts. You've swallowed the myth that success, happiness, and fulfillment come from hoarding more knowledge, pushing harder, or molding yourself into some perfect ideal. Yet here you stand, drowning in information, still paralyzed, still tripping over the same tired mistakes, still wondering why your life feels like a stranger's. The raw truth? It's not about what you know, it's about mastering the right wisdom when it counts. Most people burn their lives away figuring this out the hard way, flailing through chaos, chasing delusions, and breaking themselves in fights they were never meant to pick. Decades dissolve into regret, a graveyard of wasted chances. But you're not doomed to that fate. There are ironclad truths about life, success, and growth that once you grip them, will spare you years of anguish and missteps. These are the keys that separate those who dominate their destiny from those who just drift through the wreckage. You've got a choice. Keep stumbling blindly, hoping the pieces fall into place, or seize control, right now. If you're done with the aimless drift, sick of circling the same dead-end patterns while your dream life fades, then this is your shot. On Victory Stoic, we've hammered decades of brutal lessons into truths you can claim in minutes. But knowledge is a dead weight without action. So here's your move. Like this video to lock it in, share it to spread the fire, and subscribe to Victory Stoic to arm yourself for the fight ahead. Then hit the comments, drop our battle cry, rise unbroken, and share your story of breaking free. Don't just watch, act. The life you're meant for starts with what you do today. Let's roll. Number 1, upgrade your mental models. The foundation of every decision. Ethan spent years believing that success was just a matter of working harder. If he wasn't making progress, he assumed he needed more effort, more time, more sacrifice. Yet despite his dedication, he remained stuck in the same cycle. Long hours, limited results, and a growing sense of frustration. He never stopped to ask himself a different question. What if the problem wasn't effort, but the way I was thinking? The way you think determines the way you live. Your mental models, the deeply ingrained beliefs and frameworks through which you interpret the world, shape every decision, every challenge, and every opportunity you recognize or fail to see. If your mental models are flawed or outdated, no amount of effort will move you forward. Success, growth, and transformation don't start with action. They start with perception. This concept is not new. The ancient Stoics understood that the mind is the true battlefield. Epictetus stated, "It is not things themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about those things." The way you interpret reality dictates your response to it. If you believe setbacks define you, you'll quit. If you see them as stepping stones, you'll adapt and move forward. The power of inversion. Thinking. Instead of obsessing over how to succeed, consider this. What is stopping you from succeeding? This is inversion thinking. A powerful problem-solving method used by some of history's greatest minds, including Charles Munger, the billionaire investor who credits much of his success to looking at problems backward. Instead of asking, "How do I get rich?" he asks, "What are the habits and decisions that keep people poor?" By avoiding failure traps, success becomes the natural outcome. Ethan applied this method to his own struggles. He realized he wasn't failing because he lacked effort. He was failing because he refused to delegate. His belief that if I don't do it myself, it won't be done right, had led him to micromanage everything, stretching himself too thin. The moment he questioned that assumption, he saw a new path. Build systems, trust others, and work smarter, not just harder. Within months, his business grew because he stopped being its bottleneck. Second-order thinking, seeing beyond the obvious. Most people make decisions based on immediate consequences without considering long-term effects. This is why people chase quick fixes, fall for get-rich-quick schemes, and make impulsive choices that backfire. Second-order thinking forces you to ask, and then what? It's the difference between seeing a short-term win and understanding its long-term cost. Psychological research supports this. Studies on delayed gratification, particularly the famous Stanford marshmallow experiment, show that those who think beyond the immediate moment achieve greater success in life. The ability to delay short-term pleasure for long-term rewards is a predictor of financial stability, career advancement, and personal growth. The shift that changes everything. The world doesn't change, your perception of it does. If you shift from asking, "How do I succeed?" to "What's stopping me from success?" from "What's the easiest path?" to "What's the long-term consequence?" you will start seeing life differently. Ethan's transformation wasn't about effort, it was about perspective. The same applies to you. Upgrade your thinking, and everything else follows. Number 2, focus is the ultimate currency. Stop letting your brain get hijacked. Michael had a plan. He was finally going to sit down, block out distractions, and get some real work done. Laptop open, coffee in hand, deep breath. Let's do this. And then, a notification popped up. Someone tagged him in a meme. He clicked. Just a quick look. Then another notification. Breaking news about a celebrity he didn't even care about. But still, might as well check it out. 10 minutes later, he was watching a video titled Top 10 Conspiracy Theories That Might Actually Be True. An hour later, he had somehow ended up researching whether pigeons are real. His work? Untouched. His time? Gone. His brain? Hijacked. If this sounds familiar, congratulations, you're human. The modern world is designed to steal your focus. Social media, notifications, endless news updates, emails, and that one friend who always texts "call me" without any context. It's no wonder most people feel like they have no time. The truth? You don't lack time. You lack focus. Your brain on distraction. Neuroscience confirms that every time you get distracted, your brain takes about 23 minutes to refocus on the original task. This means if you check your phone just for a second 10 times a day, you've essentially lost almost 4 hours of deep work. Your productivity is not being stolen in big chunks, it's being chipped away in tiny, seemingly harmless moments. This is why selective ignorance, the art of consciously ignoring useless information, is the real superpower of the 21st century. The most successful people are not those who know everything, but those who know what to ignore. Billionaire investor Warren Buffett famously said, "The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything." The art of ignoring stuff that doesn't matter. Instead of trying to consume every bit of information thrown your way, become strategically ignorant. Don't read every email immediately. Half of them are nonsense anyway. Mute notifications. Your brain doesn't need to know when a stranger liked your tweet. Unsubscribe from useless content. Yes, even the newsletter you swore would make you a better person, but never actually read. Give yourself permission to be stupid about things that don't matter. You don't need to know what your high school classmate had for lunch. Focus is a superpower. Use it wisely. Michael eventually learned his lesson. He deleted half his apps, turned off notifications, and started using website blockers. Within weeks, he finished more work in one focused hour than he used to in an entire day. He even got 8 hours of sleep instead of scrolling through bizarre Reddit threads at 2 a.m. The key takeaway? The world is full of distractions, but focus is your currency. Spend it wisely or let it be stolen one meme at a time. Number 3, master your choices, master your life. How to stop sabotaging your love and career. Jake had a problem. Well, several actually. He had just quit his job on impulse after a frustrating email from his boss. He had also just texted his girlfriend, "We need to talk," after overanalyzing a 2-word reply she sent 5 hours ago. And now, he was standing in his kitchen, debating whether eating an entire tub of ice cream at midnight was a good coping mechanism. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Jake, like many people, had a decision-making problem. Not because he was incapable of making choices, but because he made them too quickly, driven by emotion, impatience, and a fundamental misunderstanding of risk. If he had just waited, given himself some space, and applied a few basic principles, he might still have a job, a girlfriend, and a functioning metabolism. Your life is nothing more than a collection of decisions, big and small. What to eat, who to date, what job to take, when to quit, when to commit, when to walk away. Most people assume their choices are logical, but the truth is, we are terrible decision makers, easily swayed by emotions, short-term thinking, and an inability to predict consequences. The good news? You can fix it. The 72-hour rule, how to not ruin your life in a single moment. Most bad decisions aren't inherently bad, they're just made too fast. The 72-hour rule is a simple but life-changing principle. Never make a major decision, career, relationship, financial, while you're in an emotional state. Give yourself 3 days. If it's still a good idea after 72 hours, go for it. If not, congratulations, you just avoided making a terrible mistake. Jake? If he had waited 72 hours before quitting, he would have realized that his frustration was temporary, that his boss wasn't actually targeting him, and that job hunting while unemployed is significantly harder than job hunting while still getting a paycheck. And his girlfriend? She was just busy. The "we need to talk" text only made things worse. Probability thinking. There is no perfect choice, just smarter risks. One reason people struggle with decisions is that they're waiting for certainty, the perfect choice with zero risks. But life doesn't work that way. In both love and work, there are no guarantees, only probabilities. Instead of asking, "Is this decision 100% right?" start asking, "What are the possible outcomes, and how likely are they?" This is called probability thinking, and it's what separates successful people from those who endlessly second-guess themselves. Take relationships. If you keep waiting for a perfect partner, you'll end up alone, because no one is perfect. The smart move? Find someone with compatible flaws, the kind you can live with. In business, if you wait for the perfect job, investment, or startup idea, you'll never take action. Instead, assess risks and optimize for the best possible outcome, not the perfect one. Decision-making is a skill. Use it wisely. Jake learned his lesson. He started using the 72-hour rule. He stopped making decisions in the heat of the moment. He evaluated risks instead of chasing perfection. And slowly, his life got better. His career stabilized, his relationships improved, and he stopped stress-eating entire tubs of ice cream. The bottom line? Your life is a product of your decisions. Make better ones, and everything changes. Keep making impulsive, short-sighted choices, and well, enjoy the chaos. Number 4, the knowledge-action gap. Why knowing more won't save you. Oliver had read every productivity book on the market. He knew all about the 5 a.m. morning routine, deep work strategies, habit stacking, intermittent fasting, and the science of willpower. He could quote motivational speakers, recite Warren Buffett's investment principles, and explain the neurological basis of procrastination. He was, by all definitions, highly informed. But there was one problem. He wasn't doing anything with it. His business idea was still just an idea. His fitness plan was still theoretical. His personal development remained stuck in the realm of potential, never transitioning into action. This is the knowledge-action gap, the silent killer of progress. Most people assume that if they just learn enough, they'll eventually act. But the truth is, knowing does not equal doing. You don't get fit by reading about workouts. You don't get rich by watching financial advice videos. You don't become successful by collecting more and more information. The real transformation happens when you apply what you already know, consistently, imperfectly, and without waiting for the perfect moment. Psychological studies confirm this. The Dunning-Kruger effect suggests that many people overestimate their competence based on their knowledge, assuming that understanding a concept is the same as mastering it. But understanding is only the first step. Action is what cements knowledge into skill. This is why an average person who takes small, consistent steps will always outperform the genius who waits for the right moment. The 1% rule is the antidote to inaction. Instead of trying to change everything overnight, improve by just 1% every day. Read 1 page instead of a whole book. Do 5 push-ups instead of an entire workout routine. Write 1 paragraph instead of aiming for a full novel. Small actions, compounded over time, create massive results. Olympic coach Dave Brailsford used this principle to turn the British cycling team from mediocre to world champions, not by demanding dramatic transformations, but by focusing on tiny, consistent improvements. Oliver finally realized that action beats theory. He stopped reading about productivity and started implementing one strategy at a time. He launched his business not perfectly, but with momentum. He exercised, not with an elite-level program, but with a simple 10-minute routine. He embraced the truth that small actions, taken consistently, create more impact than grand plans that never leave the page. If you're waiting until you know enough, you'll be waiting forever. You already have enough knowledge to take action. So start now, even if it's messy, because in the end, success doesn't go to the person who knows the most. It goes to the one who actually does something with what they know. Number 5. Your environment shapes you more than willpower. Stop relying on motivation. Liam always thought he had a willpower problem. He wanted to wake up early, but he kept hitting snooze. He wanted to eat healthier, but somehow junk food kept finding its way into his kitchen. He wanted to be productive, but his phone notifications and endless Netflix choices sabotaged him daily. Every night, he promised himself that tomorrow would be different, and every tomorrow looked exactly like today. What Liam didn't realize was that his failure had little to do with willpower and everything to do with his environment. He was trying to force himself to change while surrounding himself with the exact same conditions that had kept him stuck. He thought he just needed more discipline, but what he actually needed was a better system. The science behind why your environment always wins. Studies in behavioral psychology confirm that willpower is a limited resource. The more you use it throughout the day, the weaker it gets. This is why you might resist checking social media in the morning, but find yourself scrolling for hours at night. Why you start the day eating clean, but end it with a bowl of ice cream. Your brain wasn't built to fight constant temptation, it was built to conserve energy. And the easiest way to conserve energy? Stop relying on willpower and start shaping your environment to make good choices automatic. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, calls this environment design, creating spaces that make success easier and failure harder. Want to wake up early? Put your alarm across the room. Want to eat healthier? Remove junk food from your house. Want to read more? Leave books in visible places. Your environment should do the heavy lifting for you, not work against you. Success is about systems, not just effort. Liam finally understood this when he stopped trying to be stronger and started changing his surroundings. He deleted distracting apps from his phone. He put his running shoes by the door at night, so he had no excuse in the morning. He started working in a cafe with no Wi-Fi to avoid distractions. Within weeks, his productivity skyrocketed, not because he suddenly had more willpower, but because he had less friction in making good choices. Your physical space isn't the only thing that shapes you. The people around you matter just as much. Sociological studies show that your habits, income, and even happiness levels are heavily influenced by the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you surround yourself with negative, unmotivated people, you will absorb their mindset. If you spend time with ambitious, driven individuals, their habits will rub off on you. This is why the fastest way to improve isn't just trying harder. It's spending more time around people who are already where you want to be. Make success inevitable by controlling your environment. Liam's breakthrough came when he stopped blaming himself and started taking control of his surroundings. He didn't have to fight to be productive anymore. His environment was now designed to make success his default setting. If you're struggling to stay disciplined, stop asking, "How can I be stronger?" and start asking, "How can I make this easier?" Because in the battle between willpower and environment always wins. Number 6, mastering human relationships. Why your words matter less than you think. Emily always thought she was a great conversationalist. She could talk for hours, share insightful opinions, and keep any discussion engaging. But despite her ability to fill the room with words, something wasn't working. Her colleagues didn't seem drawn to her the way they were to others. Her boss never seemed to fully value her input. Even in friendships, she sometimes felt like she was being tolerated rather than truly connected. Then one day, she had lunch with Mark, a colleague who, despite being quiet, was one of the most respected and well-liked people in the office. She couldn't understand why. He wasn't the loudest, the most charismatic, or even the most entertaining. But people gravitated toward him, so she paid attention. And what she realized changed everything. Mark wasn't just listening to people, he was making them feel heard. The science of why people like certain people. Studies in social psychology confirm that people don't remember what you say as much as they remember how you make them feel. This is why the most likable and influential people aren't necessarily the smartest or most talkative. They're the ones who make others feel valued. The secret to mastering communication isn't about what you say, but how well you listen. Harvard research on conversation patterns shows that people spend 60% of their conversations talking about themselves, and when they do, it activates the brain's reward centers, similar to eating food or receiving money. This means the simplest way to be more likable is to talk less about yourself and give others more space to share. Emily realized that Mark had mastered this. He asked thoughtful questions. He let people finish their sentences without interrupting. He didn't jump in with his own story every time someone shared something personal. Instead of saying, "Oh, that reminds me of when he said, "That sounds incredible. Tell me more." He wasn't just hearing people, he was making them feel important. How to instantly improve any relationship. The key to great communication isn't being the most interesting person in the room. It's making the other person feel like they are. If you want to connect with people better, start by applying these simple shifts. Listen to understand, not to respond. Too often, people only listen long enough to think about what they're going to say next. Instead, focus entirely on what the other person is saying. Mirror emotions, not just words. If someone is excited, match their enthusiasm. If they're sharing a struggle, show empathy. People connect not just through words, but through energy. Ask open-ended questions. Instead of saying, "Did you have a good weekend?" which invites a one-word answer, try, "What was the best part of your weekend?" This encourages deeper conversation. Why this matters more than you think. Emily started practicing these shifts in her conversations. She spoke less and listened more. She asked better questions. She stopped trying to impress people with words and started making them feel heard instead. Within weeks, she noticed a change. Her relationships became stronger, her colleagues valued her presence more, and even her boss started taking her more seriously. Great communication isn't about saying more. It's about making every interaction mean more. If you can master this, you won't just build better relationships, you'll open doors to success in every area of life. Number 7, work smarter, not harder. Why most people are busy but not productive. Ryan was always working. He started his days early, stayed up late, and barely took breaks. His to-do list was endless, his inbox constantly overflowing, and his meetings never seemed to end. Yet despite all his effort, he never felt like he was getting ahead. No matter how many hours he put in, success remained just out of reach. Then one day, an older colleague gave him a simple but brutal truth. "You're not productive, Ryan. You're just busy." This is the reality for most people. They mistake motion for progress. They believe that the harder they work, the more they will achieve. But the truth is, success isn't about doing more, it's about doing what actually matters. The Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule, explains why. It states that 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts. In other words, a small portion of what you do is responsible for the majority of your success, while the rest is just noise. The problem? Most people focus on the wrong 80%. The meetings that don't matter, the tasks that don't move the needle, the endless distractions disguised as work. Science backs this up. Research on workplace efficiency shows that people who work longer hours are not necessarily more productive. In fact, they often make more mistakes, burn out faster, and spend more time fixing errors caused by exhaustion. The real key to success is ruthless prioritization. Identifying the few tasks that generate the biggest results and eliminating everything else. Steve Jobs once said, "Deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do." Ryan finally understood this when he stopped glorifying busyness and started optimizing effectiveness. He cut unnecessary meetings, delegated low-impact work, and focused on the few critical actions that actually drove results. Instead of working 12-hour days, he worked 6 focused hours, and his productivity doubled. Most people don't fail because they're not working hard enough. They fail because they're working on the wrong things. If you're constantly overwhelmed, step back and ask yourself, am I actually making progress, or am I just spinning my wheels? Because in the end, the goal isn't to do everything. The goal is to do what actually matters. Number 8, identity-based change. Who you believe you are is who you become. Nick wanted to get in shape. He bought new running shoes, signed up for a gym membership, and promised himself he'd work out 5 times a week. For the first few days, he was motivated. But within 2 weeks, he started skipping workouts. A month later, his gym shoes were gathering dust. He told himself, "I'm just not the kind of person who enjoys exercising." And that was the real problem. Not his motivation, not his schedule, not his routine. His failure wasn't about discipline. It was about identity. Most people approach change the wrong way. They focus on habits without first changing their self-image. They say, "I want to read more," instead of, "I am a reader." They say, "I need to start working out," instead of, "I am an active person." But the truth is, your actions will always align with your identity. If you see yourself as someone who hates exercise, no amount of planning or motivation will make fitness a long-term habit. If you believe you're just bad with money, you'll continue making poor financial decisions. Your mind will always find ways to confirm the identity you've given yourself. This is backed by psychology. Studies on self-perception theory show that people reinforce their beliefs through their actions. If you repeatedly tell yourself, "I'm a procrastinator," you will act in ways that support that identity. But if you shift your language to, "I am someone who gets things done," your brain will start looking for ways to make that statement true. Identity is the root, and habits grow from it, not the other way around. Nick finally changed when he stopped forcing himself to go to the gym and started telling himself, "I am the kind of person who prioritizes health." Instead of seeing workouts as a task, he saw them as part of who he was. And that small shift changed everything. He no longer relied on motivation. He simply acted according to the identity he had adopted. If you want real lasting change, don't just try to change your habits. Change how you see yourself. Instead of forcing yourself to study, become a lifelong learner. Instead of trying to eat healthier, become someone who respects their body. Because once your identity shifts, your actions will follow naturally. Number 9, health is your bedrock. Build it now or break under the cost later. David was always too busy. Too busy to exercise, too busy to cook healthy meals, too busy to get a full night's sleep. His career was demanding, and he told himself he'd focus on his health later. After this project, after this deadline, after life became less chaotic. But life never slowed down. One morning, after feeling dizzy at work, he found himself in a doctor's office, staring at test results that told a brutal truth. He had high blood pressure, rising cholesterol, and was one step away from a serious health crisis. David wasn't alone. Most people treat health as an afterthought, something to deal with only when problems arise. But here's the reality: your body is the foundation of everything you do. If you neglect it, no amount of money, success, or ambition will matter. You can't enjoy wealth if you're too sick to spend it. You can't achieve your goals if your energy is drained. You can't live fully if you're constantly battling stress, fatigue, and preventable diseases. The irony? Good health isn't complicated, but most people still get it wrong. Sleep enough, move your body, eat real food, drink water. These are basic habits that take little effort but create massive results. Science backs this up. Research from Harvard shows that people who exercise regularly not only live longer, but also have higher cognitive function, lower stress levels, and increased productivity. Another study found that chronic sleep deprivation reduces decision-making ability, increases irritability, and accelerates aging. The cost of ignoring your health isn't just years off your life, it's quality of life lost. Imagine being in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, unable to travel, chase after your grandkids, or even walk up a flight of stairs without pain. That's not aging. That's neglect catching up. David finally realized this after his health scare. He stopped treating exercise as optional and started seeing it as non-negotiable. He made small but consistent changes, walking every day, swapping processed food for real meals, setting a strict bedtime. Within months, his energy returned, his stress decreased, and for the first time in years, he actually felt alive. The choice is simple. Invest in your health now, or spend your future paying for medical bills, lost time, and regrets. Because in the end, the greatest luxury isn't money. It's waking up every day with a body and mind that allow you to fully enjoy life. Don't wait until it's too late. Take care of yourself today. Number 10. Learn to let go. Growth begins where attachment ends. Sophia had always been the type to hold onto relationships that no longer served her, onto goals that no longer inspired her, onto habits that no longer benefited her. She stayed in a draining job because she had already invested years into it. She maintained friendships that felt more like obligations than connections. She pursued dreams that, deep down, she no longer wanted, simply because she had once told herself she did. Letting go felt like failure. But was it? Most people think success is about accumulating more knowledge, more achievements, more commitments. But true growth often comes from subtraction, not addition. The ability to let go of outdated beliefs, toxic relationships, past mistakes, or even a version of yourself that no longer fits is what allows real transformation to happen. Psychologists call this the sunk cost fallacy, the tendency to stick with something just because you've already invested time, money, or effort into it, even when it's no longer beneficial. This is why people stay in careers they hate, relationships that drain them, and routines that no longer align with who they are. But the truth is, holding on to the wrong things doesn't make you loyal. It makes you stuck. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, put it simply: you act like mortals in what you fear and like immortals in what you desire. We fear endings, but we live as if we have unlimited time. This reality? Every second spent clinging to what no longer serves you is a second stolen from what could. Sophia finally understood this when she asked herself one question: if I were starting fresh today, would I choose this? When the answer was no, no to the draining job, no to the friendships that felt one-sided, no to the dreams she had outgrown, she let go. And for the first time, she felt free. Letting go isn't losing, it's making space for better opportunities, for genuine connections, for personal evolution. If you're holding on to something just because you're afraid to release it, ask yourself, is this adding value to my life or just taking up space? Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't holding on tighter, it's finally letting go. Number 11. Financial freedom isn't about money, it's about owning your time. Lucas always thought financial freedom meant being rich. He imagined himself with luxury cars, a massive house, and a bank account big enough to never worry about money again. So he worked non-stop, took every promotion, and chased higher salaries. But as his income grew, so did his expenses: bigger mortgage, fancier vacations, and a lifestyle that required him to work even harder just to maintain it. The irony? The more money he made, the less free he felt. Then he met Daniel, an old friend who seemed to have figured something out. Daniel wasn't rich in the traditional sense. He didn't have a mansion or expensive cars, but he had something Lucas didn't: control over his time. He worked when he wanted, spent weeks traveling without stress, and never seemed rushed or burned out. That's when Lucas realized financial freedom isn't about having more money. It's about needing less of it to sustain the life you actually want. True financial freedom means your time belongs to you. It's not about working endlessly to afford luxuries you don't even have time to enjoy. It's about designing your life so that money serves you, not the other way around. Research in behavioral economics supports this. Studies show that after a certain income level, around $75,000 per year in the US, more money doesn't significantly increase happiness, but having control over how you spend your time does. Lucas finally understood this and started making changes. He simplified his lifestyle, focused on earning efficiently rather than just earning more, and built passive income streams that allowed him to step away from work without sacrificing financial security. Within a few years, he wasn't just making money, he was reclaiming his time. The ultimate measure of wealth isn't the size of your bank account. It's waking up every day and deciding how to spend your time. If your money isn't buying you freedom, then you're not financially free. You're just a high-paid prisoner. Closing, the truth about success, happiness, and freedom. Everything you want in life: success, fulfillment, financial freedom, great relationships, health, and personal growth, doesn't come from luck, raw talent, or working yourself into exhaustion. It comes from understanding and applying the right principles at the right time. Most people waste years chasing the wrong things, believing effort alone is enough. But effort without direction is like running on a treadmill. You're moving, but you're not getting anywhere. The difference between those who struggle and those who thrive isn't intelligence or resources. It's mindset, decisions, and the ability to take action on what truly matters. Whether it's shifting your identity, reclaiming your focus, mastering relationships, or letting go of what no longer serves you. These lessons aren't just theories. They're the rules of the game. Ignore them, and you'll spend your life wondering why nothing changes. Apply them, and you'll wake up one day realizing you've built the life you always wanted. Now, the question is, what will you do with this? Will you keep consuming information, waiting for the perfect time to take action? Or will you start applying even just one of these principles today? Because the truth is, your future isn't something that happens to you, it's something you create. If this message resonates with you, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to Victory Stoic for more no-nonsense insights on life, success, and personal power. In the comments, type "I choose mastery" if you're committed to leveling up, and share your story. What's the biggest mindset shift or lesson that changed your life? Let's learn, grow, and dominate together.